execute it. DA, if he throws it, you gotta like try to dunk it, okay?
Sometimes it just works to perfection.
Beat by Apollo. Whoa, whoa, yeah. Hey. Beat by Apollo, stop at new Apollos. Cop a Henny sour, and I'm puffing Jack Sour. Yeah, I feel a black power. Yeah, this time it's really ours. It's time to get the bag. Yeah, it's time to get the bag. Yeah, yeah. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On a mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On a mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it.
All right, ZFIF Sports, man. It's Lamont. We are back. We're back with another game reaction video last night. As many of you guys already saw, we had the Phoenix Suns versus the Los Angeles Clippers, Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. And man, you know what? Maybe in this playoff, we don't have the premier teams that we would love to see. If you're talking about the Lakers, you know, and some of the top name guys out of the Western and Eastern Conference. But you know what? The teams that have showed up and showed out. Last night's game was an epic game with an epic conclusion. We're going to break down that game. We're going to break down what went right and what went wrong for both teams. And then what are the repercussions of last night's victory for the Phoenix Suns that put them up 2-0 in this series. And once again, we see the Clippers down 0-2 in the series. And they've made 2 0-2 comebacks so far against the Dallas Mavericks. And then also against the Utah Jazz. Can they do it again against the Phoenix Suns? But we're going to get to all of that here in a second. Before we get started with today's video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video. If you haven't done so already, we are grinding. Obviously, the grind is to 30K, 50K, 100K. Those are the next couple of goals for the channel. Until we hit those goals, we're going to continue to grind. We're going to continue to drop these videos. And as usual, as we've done this last week or so, we're going to continue going live for all of these NBA playoff games, doing the play-by-play reaction. We've been getting a lot of good feedback from you guys with regards to these play-by-play reaction videos and live streams that we're doing. Gives you guys the opportunity to come in, chop it up about basketball and a lot of the things that are going on in the NBA and the sports world. But today, again, we got this Clipper matchup that we want to talk about. Obviously, as you guys may know, this is a game that the Phoenix Suns won. And they won this game at the very last second. And literally, when I say the very last second, it literally came to the very last second for them to win this game. Let's go ahead and get over to the drawing board so we can break down the footage of last night's game. All right, so we're going to pick things up in this fourth quarter. Tight game up until this point. Phoenix kind of controlled it for the most part, but they gave up a late fourth quarter lead. We see Mikal Bridges right there with the 3 to push the lead up to 6. But you know, this Clipper team, they don't go away. Paul George, who struggled throughout the night, hits the 3 there. But then we see Ayton, the big man of the night. He was unstoppable inside with the hook shot to give them a 5-point lead. But we see Zubac right there. Zubac was really the only Zubac and Paul George was really the offense that we only saw from the Clippers in the second half, as Cameron Payne gets an easy layup there. And then we see a big play right here, 195. Really, you know, there were a lot of reviews in this game. This was another play that needed to be reviewed. And again, the refs had to do a job. You know, when they went back and looked at the tape, it was over 30 minutes of stoppage time due to reviews. Luke Kennard with the 2-point shot there brings the lead to 3. And then we see late in this game, you know, the Suns had some execution issues and some fouling issues. We see Patrick Beverley right here with what some may call a flop. But obviously, when you're struggling and things aren't going your way, you got to do what you got to do to get the call. And obviously, as you see Pat Beverley right there, Clippers get the call. They get the ball back. The 3-pointer was waved off. And they actually capitalize on it right here. Paul George, again, did a great job of selling the foul. He gets tangled up with Devin Booker. And he draws the foul. All right, they cut the lead down to 1 after the free throws. Zubac right there, big second half with the block there. And the Clippers come down. Paul George scores in transition. Two of his 26 points right there. They take a 1-point lead with 30 seconds to go. But we see Devin Booker. Man, this man, he struggled. Patrick Beverley gave him hell all night. But he hits the mid-range jumper right there. Puts the Suns up by 1. But Paul George, man, looked like Paul George was going to seal the deal right there. He gave the Clippers another 1-point lead. Suns get the ball back, but then right here, one of the most controversial calls I've seen in a long time. Looks like Patrick Beverley tips it out clean, but after review, the replay shows that Devin Booker actually touched his ball last, and in a miraculous turn of events, Clippers get the ball back and they foul. Paul George goes to the free throw line and clanks 2 clutch free throws. Now the Clippers still had a lead. They get an open shot to Mikal Bridges. He misses the shot, but the ball is tipped out on the Clippers. And the Phoenix Suns get another shot to win this game. After this play was also reviewed with 0.8 seconds on the clock. Monty Williams has to draw up a great play to get the alley-oop dunk. Ayton seals the deal with an alley-oop dunk at the rim. A number of mistakes on that last play defensively for the Los Angeles Clippers. We're going to break down that play later, but as you guys can see, Zubac late on the rotation. Ayton gets a clean flush right at the rim, and when you throw that ball from out of bounds, it's a live ball. There's no goaltending, and he was able to just flush it right in for a dunk to win the game, man. The Suns, again, two games without Chris Paul, where they really came through late in the game with big plays. In game 1, it was Devin Booker. In this game, it was Cameron Payne and Ayton, who had big games. And ultimately, it sealed the deal for the Phoenix Suns, giving them a 103-104 victory in game 2. Man, and like I said, that was a crazy game. There we have it right there. Phoenix Suns win this game 104-103. This was a really tight contest all the way through. This was one of the craziest games because throughout this game, we saw the Phoenix Suns go up 5. Right? Then turnovers and bad plays here and there. Then the Clippers would not only tie the game, but maybe go up themselves. And it was a back and forth game to that fourth quarter. And then we saw what we saw at the end. But with the Clippers, Morris, who was questionable before the game, he finishes the game 3-11 of the field, 7 points on the night. Zubac 14 and 11 double. He had a great second half to help Paul George, who struggled throughout the night. Pat Beverley 6 points. Reggie Jackson 19 points on 7 of 15 shooting, but that was 17 points that came in the first half. He only gave this Clipper team 2 points in the second half and just kind of disappeared out of the offense. And then we had Paul George, who dropped 26 points. He came on late. 10 of 23 shooting, 1 of 8 from the 3-point line. And then obviously, as you guys just saw, though he missed those 2 clutch free throws, he struggled from the free throw line, shooting 5 of 10 on the evening. And ultimately, it came down to this team being unable to find scoring help in the second half for Paul George. And then as we saw, Paul George missing those crucial free throws, going 5 of 10 from the free throw line. But on the flip side of that, when we look at this Phoenix Suns team, when we talk about Mikal Bridges and Crowder, they did most of the defensive work with 2 points and 5 points consecutively. But Deandre Ayton, 24 points, 14 rebounds. He's been a monster for this team against this Clipper lineup. Tyronn Lue has decided to go small, and Monty Williams has decided, well, if you're going to go small, I'm going to punish you with my big. And he has punished this Clipper team in games 1 and 2, 12 of 15 shooting on the night, just absolutely unstoppable. And then, obviously, with the game winner at the rim, Cameron Payne. Again, the unsung hero. Nobody saw this coming. We knew that he would be solid. We saw how he played when Chris Paul went down against the Lakers with that shoulder injury. But tonight, he steps up big. This is a game where Patrick Beverley was all over Devin Booker, giving him problems all night. But Cameron Payne drops 29 points, 12 of 24 from the field in 37 minutes. And then we have Devin Booker. He came on and made some big shots in the fourth quarter. But for the evening, he really struggled. 5 of 16 on the night with 20 points. Sark off the bench and Cam Johnson off the bench, both with 11 points. They got 24 points from that bench. So again, the Phoenix Suns once again do it by committee. All right, they're able to find scoring all over the place and score in a number of ways, whether they go small with Sark. All right, they know how to attack this Clipper lineup regardless of who they put in, and that's ultimately what was the difference in this game, and this also what helped keep this Phoenix Suns team afloat as the star for the Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker, struggled for most of the night. But what I really wanted to break down was this last play of the game. The last play of the game, the Clippers still had a chance to win this game. All they needed to do was make one defensive stand. They just needed to make one defensive stand. And if we look at this stat right here, and I'm going to show you guys the stat right here. If we look at this stat, go ahead field goals in the last second of the game, in the last 25 postseasons, it's only been done 3 times. Deandre Ayton obviously has done it in 2021. Boris Diaw did it in 2006, and Marbury did it in 2003. So in the last 25 seasons, scoring with less than a second to go to win the game is extremely rare. And the way the Phoenix Suns scored is also extremely rare. What we're going to do is, I spoke in the live stream last night. I tried, I was really trying to break down what went wrong on that last defensive play. I know a lot of people were wanting to blame Paul George for missing those 2 free throws. I don't like to do that because ultimately, even when he misses those free throws, they still have the lead. All they need to do is make a defensive stand. And so again, I literally broke down what went wrong on the last play. But then also in the evening, as the evening went on, I saw another video on ESPN, and I could say that this guy stole my take. I don't want to do that because what I explained was just simply basketball common sense. But Tim Legler of ESPN, he actually does a really good job of breaking down the same elements that I was able to point out within seconds of seeing that last play of what cost the Clippers on that last play. They just needed to make one stop with less than a second to go. Most teams usually can get it done. Most teams usually put an emphasis on protecting the rim and not allowing an easy tip in, which is what some teams will go to as a bailout play. But the Phoenix Suns look like they committed wholeheartedly to going at the rim, and the Los Angeles Clippers took the bait. Let's go to this video clip right here as Tim Legler just kind of breaks down the exact same problems that I was able to identify in last night's stream on that last play. Let's get to that video.
This put back right there. Now this is the biggest play of the game, obviously at the end of this game. Look at DeMarcus Cousins. He's in the game. He's a 7-footer, but he should be shading to this side because when he doesn't do that, he actually gives Jay Crowder a perfect view of the rim. That's the first thing that happens. The next thing that happens, take a look at Nicholas Batum. You'd love to see him come here and bump. When Deandre Ayton is coming off this screen, the reason he can't do it, he's guarding Devin Booker. So he does not want to leave Booker. He's going to stay attached to his hip. And as a result, when Booker sets the screen, Deandre Ayton has enough clearance to get to the rim. And then obviously, this is a perfect pass. So a couple of things go wrong. Some of it bad luck for the Clippers, but I thought putting a 7-footer on the ball is a great idea. But when the ball's that deep in the corner, you've got to make sure as a big, you are protecting the basket, so the pass has to come to the 3-point line. You can't allow a direct pass at the basket, particularly with a 7-footer on the ball. Great execution by Phoenix, but the Clippers, that's a breakdown at the end, and obviously taking advantage of Paul George missing 2 free throws. Really tough loss because they fought their way all the way back to take the lead, and then they let it get away from them in the last 7 seconds, and now the Suns up 2-0.
And there you have it right there. Tim Legler did a beautiful job of breaking that play down. Again, it doesn't take a rocket science to see what went wrong on that last play. And I honestly feel like a lot of the things that he pointed out were things that Tyronn Lue specifically talked about in the huddle. I think it was just poor execution on the play, on the part of the Los Angeles Clippers. This is an issue that's plagued them all year long. before the playoffs started, I said this team is not very disciplined. We saw signs of this in the playoffs last year, where they would have stretches where they would play great, but then they would also have stretches where they would play very undisciplined basketball and have breakdowns of this magnitude, and they would just happen at the wrong time. And if for Paul George, I really feel bad because he's had a great playoffs. I mean, they've made some great comebacks against the Mavericks. They had a great comeback in that series against the Utah Jazz, and now they find themselves down 2-0 again. But this time they're down 2-0 because, and you know what a lot of fans are going to point to? They're going to point to those 2 missed free throws, and I know that's really going to haunt Paul George. I know coming out of that, going into the timeout after he missed those 2 free throws, I know that the coaches and the players were still positive because they still had the lead. But man, oh man, you had to be worried when you have a guy like Monty Williams drawing up a play that could potentially beat you. And man, they just, the Clippers just had a number of breakdowns on that last play. Just breakdowns that you never see. As we just saw on that statistic that I just put up, scoring with under a second left for a go-ahead bucket has only happened 3 times in the last 25 years. And the Clippers are now added to that list. They allowed Deandre Ayton to get to the rim for an easy dunk because of defensive breakdowns, lack of attention to detail on DeMarcus Cousins' part. Same with Patrick Beverley, who was also out of place on that last defensive stand. And then with Nicholas Batum and Zubac, who failed to communicate properly. That should have been a switch. Even if it's Zubac on the perimeter guarding Devin Booker, it's only 0.8 seconds on the clock and he could easily contest. So again, a number of things went wrong. Now the Clippers got to go back to LA and they have to hold the fort down at home. They cannot lose a game at home. And now the pressure is off of Phoenix. Phoenix went into these 2 games at home knowing that they would probably be playing without Chris Paul. And now the Clippers have to go find a way to win in LA. But now they may have more problems on their hand as reports are coming out now that the Phoenix Suns are hopeful that Chris Paul will return for Game 3 in LA. All right. Now they're saying that there is optimism that Chris Paul will return in Game 3. And there's primarily optimism that he will return because when you're dealing with players who are not vaccinated, there's a minimum of 10 to 14 days in isolation that player must go through, and they must have a number of positive tests. However, the league implemented different standards for players who are already vaccinated. So being that Chris Paul is vaccinated, he is not bound to that 10 to 14 day time frame. He just simply needs to test positive for a consecutive number of days in a row, and then he is eligible to play. So now that they're going to have that extra day break in transition and playing in LA, there is a potential. Now, Chris Paul has already been isolated about 6 days. There's a potential that he may be playing Game 3. And with the status of Kawhi Leonard up in question, it's looking like he's going to be out for this entire series. If this Phoenix Sun team, if they get Chris Paul back going into Game 3, then unfortunately it's all she wrote for the Los Angeles Clippers, because that's going to be too much firepower on that Phoenix Suns team for the Clippers to handle. And as we saw tonight, this team struggled to find scoring, especially in the second half. Reggie Jackson, who's been pretty solid for most of this playoff, he's not going to be a very dependable or reliable number 2 scorer. And he did his best to help get them to this point. But ultimately, we knew that one of these games were coming. So when we saw Paul George struggle, he had no help offensively. But as the Phoenix Suns struggled, we saw all of the help that he had offensively off the bench and in the starting lineup to help propel them to the victory. And Devin Booker, again, an atrocious game with 8 turnovers, just wasn't feeling it. When you have the team around you and you have a lot of guys that can step up and help you get the job done, this is one of the reasons why the Phoenix Suns are one of the most versatile and one of the most deep teams in the NBA. And now the Clippers have to figure out how they're going to get out of this 0-2 hole once again. And it's never been done before. A team coming back from this many 0-2 deficits, the Clippers can potentially make history again, as they made the Western Conference Finals for the first time, maybe they can dig themselves out of this 0-2 hole for a third time in one playoff run. All right, you guys, let me know what you think about this game. What are your thoughts on that last play? What are your thoughts on Paul George missing those 2 free throws? A lot of people are going to be down on him today as stories come out and news reports come out. And you guys watch some of the commentary on Paul George. I'm sure everybody's going to be screaming Pandemic P once again. But I just think it was an unfortunate turn of events with him missing those free throws. And then on that last play, concurrently, we see the defensive gaff there by that entire Clipper team that cost them the game in Phoenix. So again, let me know what you guys think about that game. What are your thoughts on the Clippers? Can they do this? Can they make a comeback? I've been seeing some of you guys in the comments saying Clippers in 7. Again, I don't believe so, especially if Chris Paul can come back in this game 3. But, you know, as we've seen in this playoffs, anything is possible with the Hawks now playing the Bucks, and that game is tomorrow. It's hard for me to say that the Clippers have absolutely no chance to win this series because we've seen crazier things in this 2021 NBA playoffs. But you guys make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell to the video. We'll be back with another live stream tonight for that Bucks and Hawks game 1. All right, make sure you tune in. We're going to be going live about 15 minutes before tip-off, so make sure, again, if you're watching from Newsbake, come over to YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can know when we go live or when we drop our podcast episodes. All right, and if you're watching on any platform, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. All right, we drop these videos all the time. Hey, but it's FYF Sports, man. It's been another great NBA playoff recap video. We'll be back with more sports and news later, but until then, it's FYF Sports, and we out.
Beat by Apollo, stop at New Apollos. Cop a Henny sour, and I'm puffing Jack Sour. Yeah, I feel a black power. Yeah, this time is really ours. It's time to get the bag. Yeah, it's time to get the bag. Yeah, yeah. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On a mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On a mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it. Ask for it, you receive it. Got it locked, put the key in. Got them looking, yeah, they praying. She like, I like what I'm seeing. Now we up, they agreeing. Play full, yeah, we eating. Now you can't ignore this feeling when you got it from insane. Why these niggas built in? You found love, why you cheating? She know that I'm never leaving. They won't beef, but they vegan. I don't know why they on that. Get a pack, then I roll that. She got ass, tell her throw that. Start her on, it's a throwback. Just a straight roll, I don't even pay tolls. Your boy a genius and I ain't talking yay though. Been a living legend since I was like a day old. I remember days though, listening to J. Cole. I remember days though, listening to Drake though. Had to up my profile, had to up my payroll. Getting too high, yeah, you know I had to lay low. Getting too fried, eating on some fucking baked dough. Yeah, I came through, and you know I had to make do. Yeah, I came through, and you know I had to make do. Getting all these dollars, yeah, you know I had to make them. Yeah, I came through, yeah, you know I had to make do. Beat by Apollo, stop at New Apollos. Cop a Henny sour, and I'm puffing Jack Sour. Yeah, I feel a black power. Yeah, this time is really ours. It's time to get the bag. Yeah, it's time to get the bag. Yeah, yeah. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On a mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it. Dollars coming, let me see it. Multi-million, I'm a bid. On a mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it.
I dip in the corner in something imported. I'm copping the land, the same with the shores. Beautiful women who time in the mirror to show up the shows and see me perform this. Used to ignore me, I'm all the day here, but I used to be timid. I don't know what fear is, just talked to my dog and he told me he got me. I hopped up the line and went straight to go get it. I got us building this up out of mortar and brick. The way that it's going, I don't see it ending. The pigment is tinted. I'm really that nigga, go figure. I'm tapped into a higher power, feeling bigger than me. It's centering me. My enemies silent, they see that I'm fire. Can't fuck with my energy. I got some real ones on my sideline, up by them guidelines. I'm way up near the skyline. You so barely fine, right? Only kings around me, all this go now. Why I shine bright? Yeah, you hella fine, right? Hey, you looking like the wine and dine type. I'm basking in that limelight. Brody, get your chip stack. I'll teach you. I'm the wise guy. I'm getting right back that shit I'm sending out with vibe wise. You know we good on that side.
Coming, let me see it. On the mission, best believe it. Ask for it, you receive it. Dollars coming, let me see it. Ask for it, you receive.